a third party, it's an extension of our organization. So they're part of the family. And so when there's a problem there, it's a problem for us as well.
The largest third-party risk concerns are understanding who these third parties are that are accessing our data systems, that are working for us as contractors, just what type of access they have into the environment. Now, to sum it all up, it can go back to that visibility component. How they handle our data is another component of it. And even in some cases, as you start to look at some of the cloud providers of applications, specifically in that use case, whose data is it once I store it and use your application? So many questions, I'll say, around third parties that we don't always have the answers to.
Some key risk indicators for third-party management really could focus in on what's the number of critical vendors you have in your organization. Is that number fluctuating? Is it going up? Is it going down? So I think having a sense of risk ratings for those vendors is important. I think that having a sense of coverage of your third parties. How many third parties have completed the assessment? Maybe it's a security assessment, maybe it's a business continuity assessment. How many haven't?
Don't make it onerously complicated. Again, complexity is our enemy when we're looking at security, because sometimes we'll get to a point where it's so complex that we forgot where we started. I think the other thing is figure out what's important. Make sure it's the right level of assessment for the data and access that they will have. You should understand what their zero trust capabilities are and what they're doing to promote those principles.
Before you onboard, make sure that everything you've asked a vendor is documented in a contract. If you have particular security requirements, it's always good to get them signed and embedded in there before the money exchanges hands. So making sure that your sensitive data that they had access to is properly disposed of is very, very important when offboarding. Making sure that anything that they were provisioned with, any of your software, any of your applications, the whole identity access management world, your vendors have to be part of that. They've got to be part of that process. You shouldn't discover 6 months later when you're doing an account review that a vendor from a year ago still has access to your Active Directory or whatever. So definitely keep your vendors in that IAM process during the offboarding.
So I think organizations can make and build a sustainable third-party risk management program really by looking at, again, how much of this can we automate, how much can we orchestrate? And I think in order to make this sustainable, it needs to be repeatable. It should not be a new process every time you look at third-party risk for a particular provider or an application. So it needs to be repeatable, it needs to be consistent, it needs to be modern. That's how you make sure that it's sustainable. I think looking at this very differently than we have in the past, with an open mind of looking at it from how do we leverage our cloud instantiations to provide us information about these third parties, in addition to the investigations that we would do via questionnaire.